Eric, you mentioned Aldo Leopold, and actually introduced Aldo Leopold, and reading the Sand Country Almanac, which is one of Aldo Leopold's sort of very accessible books. It's written in a, you wouldn't know any of his research like that because it's written in a very experiential way. How do you think that writing and communicating in that way can transcend and connect people more efficiently than maybe charts or graphs?
Well, it's a great question. I think if you look at the legacy of Aldo Leopold, how many of you have heard of Aldo Leopold? Just a show of hands. It's a lot of people. I think maybe a lot more people have heard of him recently, but he's still regarded as one of the few people who was able to kind of capture the value of nature to this day as a kind of unusual feat. Because if you take science, you're trained to not speak in those kind of terms. You read a scientific paper, don't use flowery words, don't try to. And so it almost constrains scientists to stay within their own bubble. And I think he's a very smart guy, very well read, and he was able to, relate to human culture. So promoting that more is something really important.
Okay, and then maybe another question that we can all talk about. There's been a lot of hype recently about beavers and the roles that beavers have in ecosystems, especially in watersheds. And when David was talking about that memory from childhood of the dead fish in the stream due to the clear cutting and and when Christina was talking about the large scale infrastructure projects, but then simply arranging bunches of willows and tree stumps, and then Eric talking about 17% of ravine systems in Toronto. So I'm just going to propose sort of a question: is rewilding Toronto's ravines with beavers or native creatures that embody rainwater or act as retention ponds? Many people don't know, but if you imagine a beaver pond, it's actually a little micro dam that will raise the water of a river shed by 1 or 2 feet. And if you have 1,000 beaver dams up the stream, then you've raised the water 1,000 feet through that whole watershed. So.
Well, I mean, I guess we can incorporate beaver dams into our hydraulic modeling and see how it goes. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked. Actually, it would be an interesting thing to do just on the side and see how it happens, or what effect it really does have on the hydraulics of a river system. Our planning lines are usually based on a storm of great proportions. So either a 1 in a 100-year storm or what we call the regulatory storm. So I'm not sure whether beaver dams would actually have an impact on that scale of hydraulic system or not. Because if not, then maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say I think it's a question of, what are the outcomes that we're aiming for? And I think certainly one of the themes today has been how intelligent ecologies are, and I think it's be arrogant to assume that we can do any better than nature's design. And so I mentioned earlier, I think the future of design is blending the human-made infrastructure with natural infrastructure in new ways. And I think if we had, if we're aiming for outcomes that include rewilding or increasing biodiversity, then yeah, maybe the beavers end up being part of the solution. But I think today we're not even considering that possibility. I think the convention is to just revert to built grade infrastructure, and we haven't even really entertained the possibility of incorporating more green infrastructure into our designs. So the first step is normalizing the use of green infrastructure.
I would just like to follow up and say that in terms of restoring creeks, green infrastructure is the only way they'll let you do any projects here now. So it's a positive step. Concrete lining is not going to happen under the Conservation Authority's watch.
No, is there any questions that anyone would like to propose to the group? Sheena?
So, just a lot of discussion about redevelopment, which is single family zoning, which is all you a little bit, but essentially trees are the same way. You envision what would be the elements of a tree-wide solution that would increase the biodiversity, that would increase the natural infrastructure services, that would reduce energy use, increase employment, pressure. Is that a word goal, or the stuff we're only rewilding and in the city made this up? Like, what are your thoughts on it? If we were to take that as a challenge, as a design challenge, what would be the elements we would use to increase all of this?
So I'll start off. I'm not familiar with the the location of the project that you're talking about.
I'm talking about all of Toronto's single-family houses.
Okay. I mean, what immediately comes to mind for me is that, like what I think Aldo Leopold did a really good job of is expressing this relationship that people have to the environment, that we're a part of nature. And I think the traditional approach to conservation was very much about, putting a fence around nature, creating a park where people don't go. And what we've seen is that those areas have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, and what we're left with are these postage stamp sized parks, and it's surrounded by a sea of desolation. And so I think it's, all the spaces in between where people are a part of the landscape, we have to achieve our biodiversity and our conservation and our ecological restoration outcomes in those areas also. It's imperative now for climate security and for the survival of life on this planet. And again, that comes back to the question of design. How are we going to design more diversity of life into our human systems, and how are we going to design our human systems to invite that life back in? So I was really inspired by a lot of the stuff that Eric was sharing about how we can invite more life back into Toronto and all the opportunities that there are for that.
Well, I think it's a really good question. I've always been an environmentalist. I've always liked the idea of, that quote, think globally, act locally. I think it's in the modern era, I don't know if you know this name, Jonathan Franzen, who's an author, he's taken quite a bit of flack for critiquing action at global climate change, putting all our focus on these levels, kind of disempowers local people. It's kind of frustrating, like we're so focused, we need to act at the global level, but if we're only thinking about that level, it can be a little disenfranchising. So if you think, kind of what you're saying with the rain barrels, I think if you look at the front lawn, so if you look at the city of Toronto, they say they need to plant about 120,000 trees a year to maintain canopy level to get to the 40%. And then you go, well, how many front yards do you need? How many schools can grow those trees? And if you look at the front lawn, which is this kind of North American, an age-old idea of the amount of resources a front lawn needs, and you go, well, what if we turn those into front yard tree nurseries like Esther and I did, and we're growing, we planted 1,000 acorns in there. That's just one front yard, and if you kind of extrapolate that across the area, you can see that by collecting people together, you can reach large goals that have a large impact. So, yeah, that was your question there. I think, kind of evaluating, maybe what folks almost need, at a large scale, using evaluating net value or whatever. You'd be surprised at how much we can do by acting locally together. Yeah.
I think that's similar to one of the questions I included at the end of my slide is, I don't have an answer to it. I think I'll just pose another question, is trying to determine what is that balance between density versus sprawl. We talk about wanting to keep green spaces and ravines and more parks in our cities, but the more parks and open space we have, the less space we have for the people who are coming into our cities. Like, our cities are increasing in population. We talk about there being a lack of housing. We need to build it somewhere, and a lot of us seem to think that question is in density. I think where the opportunity is maybe in some of the material science innovations, maybe shifting towards some of the traditional building materials and using more, using new well, not new, timber's not new, but timber and carbon sequestered concrete and other examples of those types of materials to work into our densifying cities.
Yeah, just to follow that up, I'm going to be a bit of a broken record on this point, but I think that as designers, you know, it's our responsibility to always be raising the bar on what's possible. There's always constraints in design, but also, you know, there's really no limit in design in terms of what we can achieve. So yes, we're always trying to balance, you know, a diversity of wants and needs. But as a designer, it's your job, our job, to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to meet them all. And I think we should always be trying to elevate to that ideal, rather than, you know, necessarily getting dragged down to a conversation about trade-offs. Let's try to elevate the conversation about what's possible across the board to make this better and better and better. The other thing is, I think that, you know, there was a question and comment from the audience a little earlier about, you know, incremental change at the individual level versus mega projects or global change. I think it's both. It's not either or, it's both. I think the incremental change, the personal change, can contribute to the global change because, you know, when we talk about bringing the diversity of life back into Toronto, humans have a deep affinity for the rest of life on this planet. We're disconnected maybe more than we ever have been. But as soon as someone, you know, puts a rain garden at their home, you know, and catches the bug to, you know, grow more food or you know, gets excited about native trees, like that's just the start of rediscovery of this deep relationship with the rest of the life on the planet. And that is what will, you know, contribute to this global, you know, reawakening of our consciousness about how we're just a part of, you know, we're just on an island, the planet's an island, we're just a part of a larger life system, and we've screwed it up deeply. And now it's our responsibility to put it back together.
I stand underneath what you're saying, is that you think there's a lot of people in the conversation say density, density, and you know, there are energy systems in South Africa that can be but I suppose you think that there are limits to density or but you're not saying that they are. So I'd like to push you a little bit. Like you seem a little bit
I'm just weary of how much of an improved ecological system we can have with the increased density. I mean, Toronto's really not that dense compared to other cities in the world. Like, there are other examples we can choose to follow or not to follow. But where are we going exactly? Is there an ideal that we're chasing, or are we trying to do our own thing? Yeah, I don't really know the answer. I'm curious to hear other people's opinions on that.
Well, you know, one thing as an ecologist, the two kind of concepts, scale is really the kind of most important idea in ecology, and probably in a lot of fields. And if you look at any scale and you evaluate something at a local level, like a front or even a front yard, and then you go to the neighborhood, and then as you go up, the net value can change, right? So if you're evaluating density at the level of a front yard or a neighborhood or the GTA or the whole Golden Horseshoe, and then you have time, right? And I actually, this kind of struck me with your comment about an engineer. The first priority is human safety, and this makes sense to me. But then I thought, well, then over what time frame? Because if you're doing something that is benefiting humans over the immediate thing, like one thing I always think about is the ravines. You can look at all the trails in there, and legally you have to remove dead trees that are within 2 tree lengths of a trail. So if you look at all the trails where you're hiking and mountain biking, you would have to remove every dead tree, and that removes all the woodpeckers, right, and everything. So the scale issue, I think, is you know, what is best for us at the time right now could be worse for us down the road with climate change or something. So, you know, maybe I almost put it back to you in the sense of what scale should we be evaluating these things at? We're going to have to make trade-offs spatially and temporally. It's probably really complex.
I guess just to comment on what was a bit of a theme, the idea of of beauty or what is pretty. I think you said that. And we're dealing with a lot of different scales from David working in Brunswick with these massive failings clear cutting to the sort of farmers and things like harvesting it, having rain barrels, and then also massive siltation channels that are revitalized, and you looking at the ravines. So is there something to be said for our instincts and sort of going with our guts when we have to be able to process all of these different scales at once? It's not maybe a black or white question, or scale should we look at? Is the tool of beauty or the feelings that we have, is that something designers should start considering?
I think that we do. I think that as much as we like to think that we make a lot of data-driven decisions, I think that ultimately we make a lot of gut feel decisions as a collective.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think that now, because as I described earlier, we're facing this very time-bound challenge, that successful adaptation is really about making decisions and acting with imperfect information. So we have to act. Like, not acting would be the worst thing ever. So by necessity, we have to be following our gut more. And like Christina mentioned, we already make a lot of our decisions that way anyway.
I would add to that, kind of like my point before, I studied quite a bit of behavioral ecology before my master's, and if you just look at how people make decisions, you discount the future. Okay, so the tragedy of the commons, we're racing to get what we can now, discount the future. And as you move closer to time critical, the end of your life or the end of a resource, you start making more risk-prone decisions, right? And so I think a lot of the problems we have is because we're looking at the beauty. We're making decisions that are beautiful to us right now, but we're discounting the future. And so there's almost a kind of, this is an evolutionary trap, we call it, right? We have these evolutionary traps for things that we like now and discount the future. So we almost, need inspiration, things like Leopold or whatever, to help us see the beauty and importance of the future, to protect ourselves against ourselves.
I think we'll, Lauren?
I just think I much appreciate this. Pretty useful as I think is one step into the elementary schools and high schools in the long term. So, training comes through children to do environmental decisions.
Actually, just one last question comment. That's something that Eric started this conversation. The big answer is evaluation, and I think it's really well. Like in David's conversation about evaluation, I'm just wondering, where do we find partners and collaboration that isn't outside of this sort of very obvious, like all design, all engineers, all representatives, architects, municipalities on board. Where else can we get people to champion? And of course, my perspective is sort of the same as Jeanette here, which is school kids. Like, what if you put a tree nursery, two tree nurseries in every school and got the activities to raise those trees? So we're raising the generation of champions who are talking their thing. I'm sort of just talking at you, but I'm also wondering that if you could identify other resource groups of people that could very push, that are not just designers.
I'm not familiar with the exact name of an organization, but a friend of mine works with the city of Ottawa in teaching school kids how to cultivate their own gardens. And that's a program that they've taken with some other schools. So I do know that there's some, perhaps it's a grassroots initiative, I'm not really sure, but that's one example of something that's going on in that space.
Yeah, I would just add that I think Absolutely right. And one of my heroes today, I'm going to get her name wrong, but Greta Thunberg from Sweden, is this great climate activist that's 15 years old, just speaks truth to power. I would also say, though, that I think this is something that comes up a lot, in these discussions about re-education, and let's not put it all on the shoulders of our children. It's going to take everyone acting now, and for the next 100+ years. Under best case scenario, we're locked into these massive changes. So yeah, it takes everything.
Sure.
It's a provincial piece of legislation that would allow developers to bypass the existing environmental law and do more
I think we're actually going to wrap it up. Sorry for everyone that still had questions, but it's close to 1:10. I think it's lunchtime, and we'll try to be back around 2. Is that possible?